Sunday the 21st of January 2024. Before I go any further, just one question, yes or no. Is Trump mentally unstable? Yes or no? Press the like button for yes, and if it's no, let me know in the comment section. Again, is Trump mentally unstable?
And now let's play How Long Will It Take Nikki Haley to say Trump's mentally unstable?
Mentioning me multiple times as to why I didn't take security during the Capitol riots. Why I didn't handle January 6th better. I wasn't even in D.C.
January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley, you know, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything? Deleted and destroyed all of it, because of lots of things. Like Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people.
On January 6th. I wasn't in office then. They're saying he got confused, that he was talking about something else. He was talking about Nancy Pelosi. He mentioned me multiple times in that scenario. The concern I have is I'm not saying anything derogatory, but when you're dealing with the pressures of a presidency, we can't have someone else that we question whether they're mentally fit to do this. We can't.
Immunity. Otherwise, take a look at Harry Truman. He wouldn't have done, if you think Hiroshima, not exactly a nice act, but it did end the Second World War, probably, right? Nagasaki, he wouldn't be doing that. He said, I don't want to do that because my opponents will indict me. You have to give a president full and total immunity.
People are only now beginning to question the cognitive state of the former losing president of the United States of America, because for some strange reason, it's been a blind eye turn to it. Yeah, everyone's questioned Joe Biden's age, Joe Biden's fitness, and he has jumped every single hurdle put in front of him. But with former guy, we've kind of relied on Ronnie Jackson, Quack Jackson, and all people like Kellyanne Conway to give an update on Trump's health.
One, this speaks to how badly the mainstream media has covered him. They have normalized him. They have cleaned up the rhetoric so he sounds in a clip or he reads in print much more coherent than he actually is. It's only very recently that the mainstream media has been reporting on his really shocking totalitarian claims. But of course, he's been this way all along. And I think because they have done such a bad job, because they have made an effort to treat the Republican Party like the Democratic Party, this notion that he's not so bad, that he's just kind of a cartoon character has set in.
And here I am. This will be my 68th Trump rally before I'm seeing the boss himself. I've been to many other rallies with his adult children and other congressional leaders and such. This is my number 68 Trump rally. Let me tell you, a Trump rally, one of the big draws. It's the greatest show on earth. Not only is he a great leader, he's a great entertainer. These rallies are fun. He's a terrific stand-up comedian. Donald Trump.
Go back to being a country of law and order. Have to do it. And you will have, very seldom, but you will have the rogue, we call it the rogue cop, the bad apple, and perhaps you'll have that also with president. But there's nothing you can do about that. You're going to have to give the president, you're going to have to allow a president, any president, to have immunity so that that president can act and do what he feels and what his group of advisors feel is the absolute right thing. Otherwise, you're going to have presidents that are totally impotent, and we've had enough of them already. So having immunity is so important, and I hope the Supreme Court has the courage to do that, because otherwise you're just not going to be in a very strong position very long. It'll totally change our country, in my opinion. That's how bad it.
There is one other thing. Trump at his rallies and in recent interviews has been, he's decided to jump on the whole Jan 6 situation in terms of not really thinking too much about what he's saying, because he's decided that those who are involved in the insurrection, criminal activity, which I shall just point out, 5 people lost their lives, he's called them hostages, which is just not the right description, whichever way you look at it. Tim Scott, you would think Tim Scott is, well, there's enough things going on in Tim Scott's world. First of all, I'd be really concerned. His girlfriend just miraculously disappeared. Don't know where, but anyway. This is how pathetic Tim Scott is. Look how long it takes him to answer a basic question.
In our nation to allow it to go forward, that would be Donald Trump.
Senator, I understand that you're talking about Joe Biden, but I do want to get your thoughts in a more fulsome way on Donald Trump, because your endorsement was a big deal and is a big deal. I just want to take one of the examples that I gave. Donald Trump calls the January 6th rioters hostages. You were at the Capitol that day. You said that you took off your jacket, you rolled up your sleeves, and you were prepared to defend yourself, quote, presumably until I died. Would you call the people who are now facing prosecution hostages?
I would say that every single person facing our justice system should have justice done. The facts and the evidence in each individual case matters. I have confidence that that process will play out. Here's what I said also in the book that I wrote. I talked about January the 6th because I'm one of the few people who was actually there. With the people outside, 99% of the people who showed up were there to exercise their First Amendment rights. What I said then is what I'll say now. I don't hold those people at harm. I don't hold them responsible for the actions of a few. I do hold the few responsible.
So the few who are... So
people have to be responsible for themselves.
So to use your words, the few who are being prosecuted, going through the justice system, would you call them hostages?
I believe that our Department of Justice should continue and allow a jury of their peers to make the decisions. That's America.
So just to be clear, and I want to move on, you disagree with Donald Trump calling them hostages, sounds like.
Just for the third time. Yes, I believe that we should have confidence in restoring the blindfold to Lady Justice.
She's the only one really campaigning the right way here. You know, Trump flies in, he does his, well, it wasn't even that big of a rally. The guy had to curtain off half of the stadium so it didn't look empty, and then flies out of here. So she's just doing it a fundamentally different way.
Just to put a fine point.
They're going to be litigating these cases in the court, and these indictments are going to ripen into convictions, and we're going to be talking about the finer points of whether you can pay a porn star with your campaign money or whether you should write it off as a business expense. I mean, the lawsuit itself is ridiculous, but the underlying facts aren't disputed, and I think people are going to kind of recoil from that when all that stuff starts coming out this summer. And the polls that show him beating Biden, those are going to switch very quickly.
Well, a lot of folks I talk to here who are Trump supporters saying he's their choice for Tuesday here in New Hampshire say all of those cases against him only made them double down in their support. We'll see if that continues as these do progress. You know,
he got her confused yesterday with Nancy Pelosi on the January 6th with the National Guard. And I would say 25 years ago he wouldn't have made that mistake. But he kept saying Nikki Haley did this, you know, with the National Guard. He was talking about Nancy Pelosi, and that's another example of you know, he wouldn't have made that mistake if he was younger. But I just.
Congressman, let me ask you before you go, why are you one of the only elected officials in South Carolina who's backing her, and why isn't she doing better in the polls there?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know what you call a lawyer who jumps ship. I know what you call a rat who jumps a sinking ship. But Joey Tapiano, who was Trump's lawyer, has decided he's had enough. He's seen the truth and he's gone. Literally. Was on the MSNBC and just dumped left, right and centre. More of that, please. I don't think Yabba Dabba Doo will ever do that.
Why would you leave the team?
By the way, it's the first and only interview, Reverend, that I'll be doing on this topic. Okay, you're someone obviously very special to me and someone I have a relationship with, and you know I'm going to discuss it once and only once to the degree I can. I left the team because it was just my time. I had to follow my compass, and my compass told me it was my time there was done. There are a lot of personal reasons that went into that, things that I can and won't discuss. I also have A$AP Rocky's trial coming up this year, which is going to take most of my year. The attention that's going to be put into that case, there's a lot riding on that for that young man, his wife, and his family. But there are personal reasons. And you know, as much as I'd love to discuss them, I just can't, because while I see many lawyers ex-lawyers of the president go on television once they're removed from the team or leave the team and discuss him and his legal team and have something to say and criticize everyone around, it's not professional. It's petty ante. It shows a lack of confidence in oneself when you go out there and do that. There's also a fiduciary obligation. So regardless of how I feel personally, I have to stay close to the vest when it comes to the exact personal reasons. Reverend, you and I are very close. We can always talk about that. But I just don't want to be like the lawyers who do things that, in my opinion, make them look very bad and violate what an attorney's privileges mean to a client, whether you are with the client or no longer with the client, whether you like the client or don't like the client. But I just had to follow my compass, and it was my time.
No, well,
that case doesn't excite me. That case is not something I think is one of the strong cases. The Manhattan DA's case that I was on, I don't think that's a strong case. There's other cases. There's Georgia. There's Washington, D.C.
You think some of them are strong cases?
Those are serious cases. The two federal cases are serious cases, and I think they're not to be taken lightly. Let's put it that way.
Do you think it is
back?
But let me ask you this: do you think, without violating any principles, knowing that some of these cases are, as you say, serious, is it possible Donald Trump could end up convicted of one of these cases in your mind?
Oh, is it possible? Absolutely. You have a jury of 12 who's going to ultimately decide this. Jack Smith is a federal prosecutor who I knew from his days in Brooklyn. They're serious prosecutors, and these are federal cases. And you have a jury.
And you don't think they're political. You think they're good cases. They're not just politics.
Look, do I think there's a political bent to some of this, some of the way this was gone about? Yes, I do. Do I think these cases are invalid cases? Look, a grand jury voted to indict, and he's going to have to face a jury in Washington, D.C.
4 grand juries.
Yeah, 4. Thank you. Washington, D.C., Florida, and Georgia, and New York City. And, I'd say maybe 3 of those venues are not particularly big Trump venues, right? New York City, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta. So that's going to be, something to really have to grapple with there. And you can't say there's no way he'll get convicted or there's no way, he'll be sentenced.
And they're tough prosecutors that, despite whatever political angle, you don't think would bring cases if they didn't think there was some legal case.
Oh, I'm sure they believe in their cases. Yeah, I do. I'm not going to subscribe unethical conduct on behalf of prosecutors without seeing evidence that they believe in their case. Doesn't mean they're right, by the way, Reverend, but they believe in their case.
Doesn't mean they're wrong either, Joe.
Does not either.
All right, go take.